everyone. I'm Andrew Saxton, Member of Parliament for North Vancouver. It's a pleasure for me to be here today to talk a little bit about my history, my past, and how I ended up being a Member of Parliament for North Vancouver. Now, first of all, I was born here in North Vancouver, just up the street at Lionsgate Hospital. And my father was active in business on the North Shore. He bought Grouse Mountain in 1964 from the Vancouver Sun newspaper. And then he built the sky rides thereafter and ran the mountain resort for a number of years. And so it was my pleasure to grow up on the North Shore, and I certainly learned how to ski on Grouse Mountain, and to this day I still enjoy the mountain, and I go up on the grind on a regular basis. My father got the idea for the cable cars, the sky rides on Grouse Mountain, when he was in South America on a trip, and he saw his first cable car there. And then he came back and decided to build one on Grouse Mountain, and that's why it's there today. And it is the most popular private tourist attraction in the province. 1.1 million people went up Grouse Mountain last year. And this is certainly one of his most proud achievements since coming to Canada as an orphan at the age of 17. And he came here, his parents had died, and his uncle brought him to Vancouver. He didn't know English, he didn't have any money, but he had a lot of determination and a lot of drive and ambition, and he used that to succeed. And he was told by a professor at UBC that now that he's in Canada, he should be spending time meeting local people, and so that's what he did. Is he made a big effort to meet local people. He met my mother, who happens to be sixth generation Canadian from Scottish background. And so despite my father's challenges of not knowing the language and not having money, he was able to overcome those challenges through a lot of hard work and commitment. And he taught me a lot. In fact, my father is more than just a father. He's a friend, and he's also a mentor to me. And many things that I've been able to accomplish have been a result of his direction for me as well. One thing he taught me, which is really important, is that you must get involved in the community and to give back. And so he was very active in the Heart and Stroke Foundation, which is a charity that raises money for heart research. And he encouraged me also to get involved. And so I was the director of the Heart and Stroke Foundation for 4 years as well. And I think it's really important for new Canadians, as you're building a new life here in Canada, is to get involved in the community. And this is something which is truly a Canadian characteristic, is to volunteer. And we have a lot of different opportunities to volunteer, whether it's at your children's schools or your place of worship, or whether it's a local charity. I think it's really important to get out into the community. It's a great way to give back. It's a great way to meet people and to become an important member and contributing member of your community as well. I was educated back east. I went to a boarding school in Toronto, Upper Canada College, which was an all-boys boarding school. And I graduated there I took grade 13 because it was an Ontario curriculum. And then I went on to the University of Western Ontario, where I got a degree in administrative and commercial studies. And then after that, I began my career in finance and banking. I was working in Europe. I worked in Switzerland for a couple of years, and then I went to New York, and then I came back to Canada, and then I had the opportunity to work in Hong Kong and Singapore as well. So I've lived in 5 countries, and I was born in Canada. I grew up in Canada. I had the opportunity to spend some time elsewhere, and that time elsewhere really taught me how wonderful a country Canada is. Sometimes you need to go away to see what else is out there to really appreciate what you've got right here at home. And I think it's everybody would agree who lives in Canada that we're very, very fortunate to live in such a great country. I think back at the Winter Olympics of 2010 that was hosted here in Vancouver, and that was really Canada's coming out party, as I like to say. You know, Canadians traditionally have been quite modest and a little bit reluctant to wave the flag, perhaps. However, I think that's changed. And I think that changed after the Olympics, the Winter Olympics in 2010, when Canadians were so proud of our athletes who did extremely well, won more gold medals than any other country in Winter Olympic history. And it really showed that Canada can compete head-on with other countries on the world stage and do extremely well. I think one of the other events which was very important for Canada was signing the free trade agreement with the United States back in the 1980s. Because before that, Canadian businesses, Canadian industry were quite protected. And we didn't know how well we would do or how well we would compete if we competed head-on with our brothers and cousins to the south in the United States. And free trade really taught us that as Canadians, we can compete head-on with the best, and we can succeed. And that's what we did through free trade, and Canadian businesses and Canadian industries have succeeded and done extremely well as a result. It's contributed a lot to the economy, it's contributed a lot to employment as well here in Canada. So these are lessons that Canada, as a small country population-wise, a very large country geographically, we're a mosaic of peoples from all over the world, which is the rich culture and rich history that Canada enjoys. And all of us are part of that. As I mentioned, my father came here as an orphan at the age of 17, and he was able to establish himself in this new country. And you can do that as well. With the great privilege of becoming a Canadian also comes responsibilities. And those responsibilities are to follow the rules, follow the laws, and also to contribute and to give back, and to teach your children those important skills as well. People look at Canada as a model. We're a model economically speaking. We've done extremely well in comparison to other Western countries coming through this recession of 2008. Canada has now created more jobs than were lost during the recession. Almost 800,000 jobs have been created since the depth of the recession. Other countries are looking to Canada as an example. And economically, we are an example. We're also an example socially and culturally as well, because we're made up of so many rich cultures and so many people from different countries. And we're an example of how we can live together and get along, and not just get along, but also thrive together and benefit as a result of having different ethnicities, different languages, and different cultures as well. So we have a lot to be very thankful for here in Canada, and also very proud of. And I think it's important to remember that when times are tough, that we've actually got it very, very easy here in comparison to what other people have in other countries. I think one of the great things about Canada is that opportunities exist for almost everybody. It doesn't matter what your background is. It doesn't matter whether your family is wealthy or not. Your success is determined by how hard you're willing to work and by following your dreams. And I know that in other places it does matter whether you come from the right family or the right social structure. But here in Canada, it's open for everybody. Opportunities, if you work hard and you really follow your dreams, you can achieve those dreams. And I've seen it from my father, for example, who came here as an orphan. He'd lived under 3 dictatorships by the time he was 14. And he was able to come to a new country like many of you have, and to establish himself, to have a family, and to follow his dreams, which is what he's done. One of the great things about Canada is that there's so much opportunity to succeed here. If you're willing to work hard and follow your dreams, you can do it. Unlike other countries that may make it difficult because of backgrounds and social structures, we don't have that here in Canada. It doesn't matter what your father does or what your parents do. It doesn't matter how rich or poor your family is. If you have the determination to work hard and to follow your dreams, you'll have that opportunity. And I've seen it in my own life. I saw it with my father, who came here as an orphan at the age of 17, and he was able to overcome his lack of English, his lack of money. He didn't have any money at that time. He'd lived under 3 dictatorships by the time he was 14. And he was extremely happy and proud to be in Canada and to become a Canadian citizen. And he's my mentor. He's somebody that I look up to, and I've followed for most of my life. And he's given me a lot of encouragement and a lot of motivation to follow my dreams as well. For example, when I came back to Vancouver after I worked overseas, I wanted to join a club where I could meet people. and I couldn't find a club that existed for younger people. And so what I did was I decided to start a club, and I got 10 people together, and we formed what's known as the Pacific Club, and this was 20 years ago. And it's still a successful club and still operating today. And it's an opportunity for young people to get together, to share ideas, and to listen to inspirational speakers. So this is just one example of somebody who has an idea and you can make it happen here in Canada. And we've got tremendous opportunities. My background is in finance. A friend of mine a number of years ago was encouraging me to consider a life in politics, to run for a member of parliament. And so I listened to what he had to say. He knew Stephen Harper, and so he introduced me to Stephen Harper. And I was very impressed when I met Mr. Harper. He was leader of the opposition at the time. And I thought, well, this is somebody that I could certainly work with, and I believe that he's doing it for the right reasons, a very intelligent man. And so in 2006, I decided that I would seek the nomination of the Conservative Party here in North Vancouver, which is my place of birth. So when I was 6 years old, my mother bought a hotel at Whistler. It was an old fishing lodge, Rainbow Lodge, which was the first hotel that was built there. It was built in 1914. And immediately she gave me responsibilities at the lodge. And this has helped to form my work ethic and to teach me the value of money. And so she put me in charge of renting the boats and also digging the worms, and obviously to go fishing. You sell the worms. So I sold worms for 60 cents a dozen, which was a lot of hard work to dig up the worms and then to sell them at 60 cents. And this taught me the value of money, and it taught me the value of hard work. And it was a wonderful experience growing up in my childhood, working at my mother's hotel at Alta Lake at Whistler Mountain. Other things that I've done in my life that have been very influential to me is traveling and learning cultures from different countries and different customs. I lived in 5 countries, and I had the opportunity to spend time in those countries, both in Asia as well as in Europe, and to learn different peoples. And what you learn when you have that opportunity is how similar we really are in so many ways, and it really makes you appreciate what it is to have different customs and how rich that culture can be. And that's what we have here in Canada as well. We are really a mosaic of many different cultures and many different customs. And I think this is one of our greatest assets. And it also shows to the world how we can get along with all of our different backgrounds. And Canada is looked at as sort of a beacon for the rest of the world. And this is one of the reasons, I think, is because we have such a rich culture and such a rich background. When it comes to politics, people often ask me, well, the job as a member of parliament, is it different from what you expected? And I would say one aspect of the job which I didn't really expect is the committee work. I sit on 2 committees, and as parliamentary secretary to the president of the Treasury Board, I sit on Public Accounts Committee. And in that position, I represent the minister and I represent the government. I'm head of the government team on public accounts. And public accounts is responsible for overseeing $260 billion worth of government expenditures, taxpayer expenditures every year. And so the committee is responsible for making sure that that money is spent in a responsible and proper way. And so I spent a lot of time preparing for committees and sitting on committees. The committee meets twice a week, and then we have pre-committee meetings as well. And it seems that while I'm in Ottawa, I spend a lot of time going from one meeting to the next. I also meet with constituents from North Vancouver who happen to be in Ottawa visiting with various organizations from British Columbia as well as from other provinces who are trying to teach us about what they're doing and what they need and how government can help out these organizations, many charitable organizations, industry organizations, and associations as well. So a lot of my job as Member of Parliament is working in committees and in meetings with constituents. I come home on weekends, come back to North Vancouver. I meet with constituents here in my office on a regular basis as well. And I find that that's really important for me to understand what's on the minds of the people of North Vancouver, so that I know what they want me to do and how they want me to better represent them in Ottawa. In addition to my responsibilities as Member of Parliament, I was also elected Vice Chair of the Canada-China Legislative Association. I lived in Asia for 8 years. I was in Hong Kong and Singapore. And so I'm now able to use that experience in government as well. Canada's major trading partner is obviously the United States, but because the United States is going through economic difficulty, I think it's extremely important, and our government thinks it's extremely important that we find new markets for our Canadian goods. We have so much in the way of natural resources and as well as manufactured goods, and it's important for us to diversify the markets for these goods. And so, as Vice Chair of the Canada-China Legislative Association, I'm spending time working on the relationship between Canada and China, which is obviously the largest market in the world and probably the fastest growing market as well. And it's important for us in Canada in order to remain prosperous, to expand our trade with the Asia Pacific and also with South America and other countries as well. Now, as Parliamentary Secretary to the President of the Treasury Board, one of our functions is to balance the budget so that Canada's economic position can continue to be strong. And that is our goal and our responsibility over the next 3 years, is to balance the budget so that we as a government are living within our means. Canadians have to live within their means. Canadians have to balance their household budgets, and it's important that the government does the same, and I believe Canadians expect that we do that. So as Parliamentary Secretary of the President of the Treasury Board, I will be working hard to make sure that we balance the budget over the next 3 years. To young people who are just graduating or starting out in their careers, I just want to say that how fortunate we all are to live in Canada, which in my opinion is the greatest country in the world, and it's great for many reasons. We have terrific opportunities to follow whatever your dreams may be, and you have that freedom and you have the opportunity to do that. Somebody said to me that if you really enjoy what you're doing, if you really enjoy your work, then it stops being work. And so I encourage young people to follow their dreams and to follow their heart. And if you do what you love, then the money will follow. And actually there was a book that I read when I was younger by that title. And so I encourage you all to follow your passion, follow your heart, and follow your dreams. You live in a great country that gives you the opportunity to do that and the opportunity to succeed. And I encourage you all to get involved in the community, to be active in your own communities, to get involved in community work, which may mean working or volunteering with your kids' schools or in your place of worship or in a local charity. I think it's extremely important that you take an active role. The young people in Canada today are going to be inheriting this country, and I think it's really important that you get involved early. Maybe some of you will even be politicians and members of parliament or mayors or members of your legislative associations in various provinces. And I certainly would encourage those of you who may be interested to do this, I really encourage you to do it. I think it's a great opportunity to help build a better future for all Canadians, and it gives you the opportunity to really make a difference in people's lives. I've seen it here in my own riding association, my own office. People come in often, they need help, and one of the most rewarding things for me as a member of Parliament is to be able to help people who need it. And so I think it's something which is a wonderful feeling to be able to do that, and it's also a very important contribution to our community, is to be able to help those who need help. And certainly when you're in elected office, you're in a position to do that. Canada is a country of new Canadians. It's a country of immigrants, and I know this myself firsthand. My father came here as a new Canadian when he was 17 years old from Europe. And with that tremendous privilege of being a Canadian also comes responsibilities. And those responsibilities are to know the rules and to follow the rules. But also, in addition to that, it's to learn what it means to be Canadian. It's to learn the local customs, and obviously also to learn one of Canada's two official languages. If you're to really succeed to achieve your goals, it's extremely important that you are able to be very proficient in one of Canada's two official languages. And I encourage all new Canadians to get involved, to learn what it means to be Canadian, to go to hockey games, even though you may not know the rules, but to learn the rules. And Canada is such a wonderful country. We have so much to offer, not just natural beauty, which is spectacular, but we also have tremendous opportunities and tremendous beauty within our cultural communities. We are truly a mosaic that the rest of the world looks at us as an example of a country that works. We're a shining light in many ways when it comes to the economic growth of Canada. We have the resources for the future, and people are looking to us as the country of the future. I remember I was in the United States recently, and one of the congressmen there said to me, "How did you do it in Canada? How did you succeed so well? How can we learn from you?" And this is, of course, coming from somebody who is in the largest, most successful country in the world, the United States, to ask Canada, how did we do it? How did we succeed? How did we make it through this global economic recession in such a strong position? It made me very proud to hear that. So we have a huge opportunity. I think that Canada's century is this century, and it's like a flower that's just about to bloom. I think Canada is on the verge of blooming, and it's our opportunity to seize. We can't just sit back and rest on our laurels. It's important that we work hard and continue to grow this country through hard work, through proper government, good government, and to make sure that we have the skills, the education. I encourage all of you to get as much education as you possibly can, because that's what's going to be important for us to succeed. It's going to be important for you to succeed in your own chosen career, your own chosen field, and it's also important for our country to succeed. We're competing now against countries in Asia that are graduating record numbers of engineers, record numbers of scientists, and it's important that here in Canada that we also have a very well-educated population. So I encourage all young people to follow your dreams, to get a good education, to work hard, and to give back to your community through volunteer work, so that Canada will continue to grow and prosper and continue to be the best country in the world. Well, I was baptized in an Anglican church as a Christian when I was a child, an infant. I've been exposed to other religions as well through family members, and also during the time that I lived and worked in Asia. I was exposed to Buddhism when I was there. And I do feel a very strong spiritual connection. I think that we're all spirits, and that we're here for a reason. We have a purpose and a destiny. And I believe that life continues well beyond the time that we spend here on this earth, which is really not that long when you think about it. We're here for 70, 80, maybe 90 years if we're lucky, and that's really just a flash. If you look at how long that the world and the universe has been here. And so I think that we're here to learn lessons, and that the trials and the challenges that we have here on earth will help to grow the spirit. And the challenge for us is to learn. This is a big learning institution. I think life is like a university, and we're constantly learning. And it's really how we deal with those challenges that makes the difference. And what we learn from those experiences, I think it's extremely important that as you go through life, as you challenge yourself and as you face difficulties, we're all going to face those difficulties. But it's how you deal with those difficulties. It's how you deal with those challenges. And to have a spiritual belief, I think, gives you that foundation and that inner strength, that faith to make it through those difficult times. And there's a famous saying that if it doesn't kill you, it'll make you stronger. And that's, I think, important to remember, is not to avoid life's challenges, not to avoid life's difficulties, because we're all going to be facing them. It's how you deal with them and how you learn from each experience and the imprint that it leaves on your spirit as you go through life and as you deal with those challenges. I think probably the most important thing for us here on this earth is our relationships with our family, our relationships with our friends, with our colleagues, and with those people that we come in touch with and contact with. That's what really is important as a life, as a human being. I think on my deathbed, I'm not going to be asking myself or saying, why didn't I, make more money? That's not what I'm going to be saying. I'm going to be saying, why didn't I do more to make this a better place? And because I have that in mind, because I'm already thinking that way, this has given me the encouragement and the courage to make a difference and to become a member of Parliament and to do as good a job as I possibly can, because when I'm on my deathbed, that final time on this earth, I want to be able to look back with some satisfaction that I did what I could to try and make this place better than it was when I arrived.